Hi, I am Maria Howard from theteacherschool.com, and I've probably said many times now that math games are one of the best ways to build student number sense and math skills. But what we haven't talked about yet was that it isn't sometimes as fun as you think. And I want to go over today my top tips for playing math games with kids to keep it fun and awesome and a positive learning environment. So the first tip that I want to give you is really about making it easy. So you want playing math games to be easy for you and for your students. So whether you're a parent at home or a teacher at school, you want to make sure that the obstacles to playing math games are really just sort of taken away. So that means maybe keeping all of your materials in one place in the classroom, or if you're at home, keeping all your materials in a tin or in a box, just having a specific place for all of your math materials. Having your math materials in one place removes a lot of friction to getting started with games. And if you're a parent especially, one trick that us teachers have is that we have a specific place where we keep pencils, erasers, and pencil sharpeners. So there's never a question as to where is the scrap paper, where is the pencil, where is the pencil sharpener. And if you need those to play a game, that could be an obstacle. So make sure that you're keeping them either with the other math game materials or just somewhere in your house that's just a designated spot for those kinds of materials. I promise you this will make your life easier. You just have to make sure kids are always putting things back in that place. The second thing, I'm looking at my notes over here. The second thing is a rule that I call stop while it's fun. So when you play any kind of game with a kid, you run into the chance of like overextending the game and playing until it stops being fun. So what you want to do with math games is you want to end the math game when kids are still excited about the game and they still even maybe want to keep playing, but you're like, no, we're done. We're going to go do something else. You want to keep it exciting and fresh, and you run the risk when you let a math game go too long of fighting, of disinterest, of just kind of overall fatigue. So you want to stop the game when it's fun. Now, I can't tell you how long that is, but I would say for most kids, it's less than 20 minutes, even less than 20 minutes if the kid is younger. So if like a first grader, you want to play a math game with a first grader, don't expect more than 5, maybe 7 minutes from a kid. At that age, you really want to, in the end, look at cues. So if they're still happy and excited and and engaged, that's a sweet spot. You don't want to get to the point where they're like falling off their chair or running and like chasing the dog. You want them here with you and still sort of like happily bopping through the game. Okay, that's the sweet spot, and that's where you're going to stop. You're going to stop while it's fun. The next thing to do is to ask questions. So the power of games is not just in the interaction of with the materials, but also the interaction with the other players. So as a teacher or parent playing these games with your kids, it's really, really helpful to stop at times. Again, you don't want to do it too much. We're just going to always err on the side of just a little bit of prompting and questioning goes a long way. So for example, if you're playing a game and your student says, I made a pair to 10, and you're like, oh, which pair is it? And they're like, oh, it's 5 and 5. And one question you could ask was like, how do you know that 5 and 5 make 10? And sometimes you're gonna get kids to go, I just know. But you could even ask them to show you, like, how do you know 5 and 5 make 10? And you could even say like, oh, well, look, 5 and 5 make 10, right? We want students to be able to like explain their thinking in addition to getting the right answer. That's kind of like the biggest underlying benefit of games, is that you're playing it with another human, right? So you can have those moments of analysis and discussion. The next thing is with parents especially, is that us teachers have learned to correct students when they're wrong very carefully. So one thing that I always like to encourage parents to do is to, instead of saying that's wrong, to say not quite, try again, or not quite, I think it's blank. So say a kid was adding 3 and 3, they said it was 5, and you're like, not quite, try again. And if they're like, you could do, well, let's think about it. 3 and 3, how many fingers is that? Or, you know, looking at the die. Those kinds of prompts are helpful, but just saying that's wrong is not as helpful in terms of our language. And also kind of just doesn't breed real inspiration to continue playing a game. I even will like sometimes let things go and not make someone go back and like really do it. So for example, if a kid got 3 and 3 wrong and it feels like we're at a point where me stopping the game to like go over 3 and 3 is 6 would kind of break the flow. Remember, keep it fun. I might just be like, oh, well, remember 3 and 3 is 6, and we're just gonna move on with our lives. Okay, keep it fun. And then my last piece of advice for you really is to alternate between favorite games. So some of my students' favorite games are Pig and the staircase game. I don't know if I have a video on the staircase game. I think I'm going to do one. The Pig and the staircase game. And then, but if we played the Pig and the staircase game every time, kids would be like really, like eventually it would stop being fun. So what I like to do is I like to alternate favorites and then incorporate new games. So sometimes I would give kids like, oh, what game do you want to play? And they'll go to those favorites. Or I'll say, let's try this new game. So this works for both teachers and parents in the sense that, again, we want to keep things fun and fresh, and we don't want to overplay our hand with games that they love, because then it stops being sort of as beneficial as a teaching tool. Okay, that's a lot, but I think that it just takes practice and just really tuning into how your students are feeling about the games as you play, and let that kind of guide how you handle situations. So I hope you have the best time playing math games with your students, and I'll see you soon.